Emma Jones pulled her thin jacket tighter around her body as she stepped out of her small, beat-up car. The January wind cut through her clothes like tiny knives. At 24 years old, Emma had been delivering food for 3 years now, working her way through college one order at a time. She checked the address on her phone again and looked up at the towering Skyline Tower, the fanciest building in the city. Great, she muttered to herself. Rich people never tip well. But Emma always put on a smile anyway. That was just who she was. The large paper bag of food from Golden Dragon restaurant felt warm against her chest as she hugged it, trying to keep both it and herself from freezing. The order was large, enough for several people, though the special note said, "Do not ring bell, knock softly." Emma approached the security desk in the fancy lobby. The guard, an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, looked at her with suspicion. "Delivery for the penthouse," Emma said, trying to sound confident. "For Jack?" The guard frowned. "Mr. Harrison doesn't usually order delivery." "Well, he did tonight," Emma replied, showing him the order on her phone. "See? Penthouse. Jack." After several calls upstairs with no answer, the guard finally sighed. "Fine, but if there's any trouble, it's on you." Emma stepped into the elevator, her heart beating a little faster. She had never been in a building this nice before. The elevator moved so smoothly she barely felt it, and soft music played as she watched the floor numbers climb higher and higher. When the doors opened, she faced a short hallway with only one door at the end. Emma walked up and knocked gently, just as the instructions had said. She waited, but no one answered. She knocked again, a little louder this time. Still nothing. Emma bit her lip. She needed to complete this delivery to get paid, and she had already spent 20 minutes just getting into the building. She tried the door handle, not really expecting it to move, but to her surprise, it turned easily. The door was unlocked. "Hello?" Emma called softly as she pushed the door open slightly. "Food delivery." Silence answered her. She took a small step inside, then another. The apartment was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the glittering city below. Everything looked expensive. The furniture, the art on the walls, even the rug under her feet. "Mr. Harrison, your food is here," Emma called, a little louder this time. She felt uncomfortable being in someone else's home, especially someone so obviously wealthy, but something felt wrong. Why would someone order food and then not be here to receive it? Emma moved further into the apartment, past the kitchen with its shiny appliances and marble countertops. The living room was empty, but she noticed something strange. The balcony door was slightly open and cold air was rushing in. Then she saw him. A man lay on the floor near the balcony, not moving. Emma dropped the food bag and ran to him, her heart pounding in her chest. He was wearing an expensive suit, but his face was pale, his lips blue. When she touched his hand, it felt like ice. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" Emma shook his shoulder gently. The man didn't respond. She pressed her fingers to his neck and felt a pulse, weak, but there. Emma pulled out her phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. "E1, what's your emergency?" the operator asked. "I found a man unconscious in his apartment," Emma said quickly. "I'm a food delivery driver. I think he's really sick. He's very cold and his lips are blue. He's breathing but won't wake up." "What's the address?" Emma gave the address and apartment number. Then came the bad news. "I'm sorry, but all our ambulances are currently responding to a major accident on the highway. The earliest one can get to you would be about 40 minutes. Emma looked at the man on the floor. His breathing was shallow, and his skin had a bluish tint. She didn't think he had 40 minutes. "Is there anything I can do while waiting?" she asked desperately. "Is he injured? Do you see any blood?" "No, no blood. But he's freezing cold." The balcony door was open. "It sounds like hypothermia," the operator said. "You need to warm him up slowly. Close the balcony door, find blankets, and raise the temperature in the apartment." Emma quickly closed the balcony door and turned up the thermostat on the wall. She found a blanket thrown over the couch and covered the man with it. "What else can I do?" she asked the operator. "Keep monitoring his breathing and pulse. If he wakes up, don't give him alcohol or very hot drinks. Warm beverages are okay. And try to keep him warm." After hanging up, Emma looked around the apartment and found a hall closet with more blankets. She piled them on top of the man, but he still felt cold to the touch. His face was so pale, and his breathing seemed to be getting weaker. Emma remembered something from a wilderness survival class she had taken during her freshman year of college. The instructor had talked about hypothermia and how in extreme cases body heat was the most effective way to warm someone up. Looking at the man's blue lips and feeling his ice-cold skin, Emma made a decision. She climbed under the blankets and pressed her body against his, wrapping her arms around him. It felt strange to be so close to a stranger, but she pushed that thought away. This was about saving a life. "Please don't die," she whispered. "Help is coming." For what seemed like forever, Emma held the cold man close, rubbing his arms and back, trying to share her warmth with him. Slowly, very slowly, his skin began to feel less icy. His breathing became a little deeper. After about 20 minutes, Emma felt him stir. His eyelids fluttered and he let out a soft groan. "Hi there," Emma said softly. "You're going to be okay. An ambulance is coming." The man's eyes opened fully for just a moment. They were a striking blue, and he looked directly at Emma before closing them again. But he was breathing better now, and some color had returned to his face. Emma heard sirens in the distance growing louder. She carefully moved away from the man and stood up, straightening her clothes and hair. She felt a strange connection to this stranger whose life she had just saved. The paramedics burst through the door moments later, their equipment in hand. "Over here," Emma called. "I think he has hypothermia. He was unconscious when I found him, but he opened his eyes a few minutes ago." The paramedics quickly examined the man. "What's his name?" one of them asked. "I think it's Jack Harrison. I was delivering food to him." "Mr. Harrison, can you hear me?" the paramedic said loudly. The man's eyes opened again, confused and unfocused. "You're doing great work here," the other paramedic told Emma. "His core temperature is still low, but it's much better than it would have been if you hadn't helped. You probably saved his life." Emma watched as they wrapped Jack in special thermal blankets and prepared to move him onto a stretcher. As they lifted him, his wallet fell from his pocket. Emma picked it up and handed it to the paramedic, but not before seeing the name on the ID. Jack Harrison, CEO, Harrison Innovations. "Do you want to come to the hospital?" the paramedic asked. "Emma." She shook her head. "No, I don't know him. I was just delivering his food." As they wheeled Jack out, his eyes opened once more and found Emma's. There was something in that look. Confusion, gratitude, something else she couldn't name. Then he was gone, and Emma was alone in the expensive apartment. She picked up the now cold bag of food from where she had dropped it and placed it on the kitchen counter. She wrote a quick note on the delivery receipt. "Hope you feel better soon. Emma, your delivery driver." As Emma left the building and returned to her car, she had no idea that her simple act of kindness had just changed the course of her life forever. She had saved Jack Harrison, not knowing who he was or what role he would soon play in her future. All she knew was that she had done the right thing, and that was enough. Emma drove away from Skyline Tower, turning her car radio up and trying to warm her cold fingers on the heater vents. She had 3 more deliveries to make tonight, and then a paper to write for her business class. Life went on even after the strangest night of her career, but somewhere in the back of her mind, those striking blue eyes stayed with her, like a dream she couldn't quite forget. 3 days passed since Emma Jones had found Jack Harrison nearly frozen in his penthouse. Emma tried to put the strange night behind her. She went to her classes, made her food deliveries, and tried not to think about the man with the striking blue eyes. Still, she checked the local news, half expecting to see something about the CEO of Harrison Innovations, but there was nothing. On the 4th day, Emma's phone rang while she was between deliveries. The number wasn't one she recognized. "Hello?" she answered, balancing the phone between her ear and shoulder as she drove. "Is this Emma Jones?" a woman's voice asked. She sounded professional and crisp. Yes, that's me. This is Linda Carter, Mr. Harrison's assistant. Mr. Harrison would like to meet with you. Would tomorrow at 2 p.m. work for you? Emma nearly missed a stop sign. Jack Harrison wanted to meet her. I have a class until 1:30, but I could come after that, she said, trying to sound calm. Perfect. Harrison Innovations headquarters downtown. I'll send you the address. Please ask for me at the front desk. The next day, Emma stood outside the gleaming glass tower of Harrison Innovations. She had worn her best clothes, simple, black pants and a blue sweater, but she still felt underdressed as she watched people in expensive suits walking in and out of the building. Inside, the lobby was huge, with high ceilings and marble floors. Emma gave her name to the receptionist, who called Linda. Within minutes, a tall woman with perfect hair appeared. Ms. Jones, I'm Linda Carter. Please follow me. They rode an elevator to the top floor. Linda led Emma down a long hallway with glass walls showing busy offices on either side. At the end of the hall was a large wooden door. Linda knocked once, then opened it. Ms. Jones is here, Mr. Harrison. Emma stepped into the biggest office she had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city below. A large desk sat at one end, and comfortable-looking chairs and couches were arranged at the other. Standing by the window was Jack Harrison. He looked very different from the pale, unconscious man Emma had found on the floor. Now he stood tall and strong in a perfectly fitted suit. His dark hair was neatly combed, and those blue eyes were clear and focused as they turned to look at her. Emma Jones, he said, walking toward her with his hand outstretched. I've been wanting to meet you properly. Emma shook his hand. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Harrison. You look much better than the last time I saw you. A small smile touched his lips. Thanks to you, please sit down. He gestured toward the seating area. Emma sat on one of the couches and Jack sat across from her. Linda quietly left the room, closing the door behind her. I want to thank you for what you did, Jack said. The doctors told me I would have died if you hadn't found me and kept me warm. Emma felt her cheeks get hot. Anyone would have done the same. No, Jack said firmly. They wouldn't have. Most people would have called 911 and left. You stayed. You saved my life with your quick thinking. I'm just glad you're okay, Emma said. She looked around the office, feeling awkward. So, you're really the CEO of all this? Jack nodded. Harrison Innovations. We make medical devices and technology. He paused. The paramedics told me you're a student? Business major at State University. I deliver food to pay for school. Jack leaned forward, his blue eyes intent on her face. I'd like to offer you a job, Emma. Emma blinked in surprise. A job? Here? But I'm still in school and I don't have any experience in... It would be part-time working around your class schedule, Jack interrupted. And I think you have exactly the kind of experience I'm looking for. What kind of job? Emma asked, confused. Jack stood up and walked to the window. Before I tell you that, I need to explain what happened that night. He turned back to face her. I didn't accidentally lock myself out on the balcony, Emma. Someone tried to kill me. Emma felt her mouth drop open. Kill you? Who? That's what I'm trying to figure out, Jack said, and that's where I need your help. For the next 20 minutes, Jack explained what had happened. He had been looking into some financial irregularities in the company. Money was missing, and company secrets were being sold to competitors. His investigation had led him to suspect his CFO, Peter Daniels. I confronted Peter that evening, Jack said. We argued. He offered me a drink, which I now believe was drugged. The last thing I remember is feeling dizzy, then watching him open the balcony doors. He said something about it looking like an accident, the drunk CEO stumbling outside and freezing to death. Emma felt cold all over again. Have you gone to the police? Jack shook his head. I have no proof. It would be my word against his, and Peter has powerful friends. I need evidence before I can move against him. And where do I fit in? Emma asked. I need someone Peter doesn't know. Someone who can observe without being noticed. Jack looked at her intently. People like Peter don't really see people like you, Emma. They look right through service workers thinking they're not important. So you want me to spy on him? Emma asked. I want you to work in our company cafe. Watch. Listen. Let me know who Peter talks to, what he does. Help me gather the evidence I need. Emma's mind was spinning. This was crazy. This was dangerous. This was exciting. Why me? She asked finally. You could hire a private investigator. Anyone I hire officially might be noticed. Peter is watching me closely now. But you? Jack smiled slightly. You saved my life. I trust you. Emma looked around the fancy office again, then back at Jack. What happens if he figures out what we're doing? He won't, Jack assured her. You'll just be another cafe worker to him, and I'll make sure you're protected. Emma thought about her small apartment, her struggling car, her pile of student loans. She thought about how hard she worked delivering food for tiny tips. Then she thought about someone trying to murder Jack, leaving him to freeze to death alone. I'll do it, she said. But I want something in return. Jack raised an eyebrow. Name it. I want a real internship after we catch this guy. A real chance to work in business, not just serving coffee. Jack smiled fully for the first time, and Emma was surprised by how it transformed his face from serious to almost boyish. Deal, he said, extending his hand again. As they shook hands, Emma felt a strange flutter in her chest. What was she getting herself into? The next Monday, Emma started her new job in the Harrison Innovations Cafe. Her manager, a friendly woman named Diane, showed her how to use the fancy coffee machines and where everything was kept. You'll get the hang of it soon, Diane promised. Just remember, these executives like their coffee exactly how they order it. No mistakes. Emma nodded, tying her apron and pulling her hair back into a neat ponytail. She looked around at the busy cafe, wondering which one was Peter Daniels. She didn't have to wonder long. At precisely 9:30, a tall man with silver hair and cold eyes walked in. Everyone seemed to step aside for him. He didn't look at anyone as he approached the counter. Large Americano, extra hot, he said without looking up from his phone. Yes, sir, Emma replied, keeping her voice neutral as she wrote his order on the cup. So this was the man who had tried to kill Jack. As she made his coffee, Emma noticed how Peter spoke sharply to the young man with him, making the assistant flinch. She noticed how he checked his watch repeatedly, seeming impatient. She noticed how his eyes darted around the room, never settling on anyone for long. When she handed him his coffee, their fingers brushed briefly. Peter finally looked at her, his eyes taking in her face for just a moment before dismissing her. Thank you, he said automatically, already turning away. You're welcome, Mr. Daniels, Emma replied with a small smile. Enjoy your day. Peter paused, for just a second, perhaps surprised she knew his name, then continued walking without looking back. Emma watched him go, her heart beating a little faster. The game had begun. Emma settled into her new job at the Harrison Innovations Cafe quickly. After 2 weeks, she knew all the regular customers and their orders. She smiled, made perfect coffees, and kept her eyes and ears open. Most importantly, she watched Peter Daniels. Every day at 9:30, Peter came for his Americano. At 2:15, he returned for a black coffee. Emma noticed he always checked his phone before entering the cafe, and he always sat alone unless he was with someone from outside the company. Emma and Jack had a system. Twice a week, Jack would come to the cafe and order a complicated drink. While Emma made it, they would talk quietly, with Emma sharing what she had seen and heard. Peter meets with a man in a gray suit every Tuesday, Emma told Jack during one of these meetings. They sit in the corner and talk very quietly. The man always has a folder, but he never opens it. Jack nodded slightly. That's George Wilkins. He works for our biggest competitor. And yesterday I heard Peter on his phone in the hallway. Emma continued. He was upset about something. He said, "It has to be this week, we're running out of time." Jack frowned. Did he say what it was? Emma shook her head. No. but he seemed very nervous. As weeks passed, Emma became even more observant. She noticed when Peter changed his routine, when he seemed stressed, when he had secret meetings. She learned to read his moods and predict his actions. One day, about a month after she started, Emma was cleaning tables near where Peter sat with two men she had never seen before. They spoke quietly, but Emma had gotten good at listening while pretending not to. "The transfer will happen Friday night," Peter was saying. "Once the money is in the Cayman account, I'll deliver the final prototype plans." "Our associates in Shanghai are getting impatient," one of the men replied. "They've already paid half." "Tell them good things come to those who wait," Peter said with a cold smile. "By this time next week, Harrison Innovations will be scrambling to figure out how their top-secret project was leaked, and I'll be on a beach somewhere far away." Emma's heart raced as she wiped the same spot on the table over and over, trying to hear more. This was it. The evidence they needed. Peter was planning to steal something big and run away with the money. Later that day, when Jack came for his usual coffee, Emma told him everything she had heard. "Friday," Jack repeated, his blue eyes intense. "That's 2 days from now." "What are you going to do?" Emma asked. "I need to check something first," Jack said. "Can you meet me after your shift? My office." That evening, Emma went to Jack's office. Linda, his assistant, gave Emma a small smile as she let her in. "I know what he's planning to steal," Jack said as soon as the door closed. "Our new heart valve design. It's worth millions and it could help thousands of people. If Peter sells it to our competitors, they'll patent it before us." "Can't you just call the police now?" Emma asked. "We heard him talking about it." Jack shook his head. "It's not enough. We need proof that he's actually taking the designs. Right now, it's just a conversation that both of us would deny hearing." "So what do we do?" Emma sat down on one of the couches, feeling the weight of the situation. Jack sat next to her, closer than usual. "I have a plan, but it's risky. I need your help one more time." Jack explained that on Friday night there would be a company party to celebrate the quarter's success. Everyone would be there, including Peter. It would be the perfect time for him to access the secure server room and steal the prototype designs. "I need you to help me catch him in the act," Jack said. "Me? But I'm just a cafe worker. I don't even know where the server room is." Jack reached out and took her hand. The touch surprised Emma, sending a warm feeling up her arm. "You're much more than just a cafe worker, Emma. You're smart, observant, and brave. I couldn't have gotten this far without you." Emma looked at their joined hands, then up at Jack's face. Over the past month, she had seen many sides of him. The serious CEO, the friendly boss who joked with employees, the focused investigator. But right now, he looked at her with something new in his eyes, something that made her heart beat faster. "Okay," she said softly. "What's the plan?" Friday night arrived and Emma felt nervous as she entered Harrison Innovations. The main floor had been transformed for the party. Music played, people chatted and laughed, and servers carried trays of food and drinks. Emma wore a simple black dress that Linda had helped her pick out. Her hair was down instead of in its usual ponytail. She felt strange, not like herself, but that was part of the plan. Tonight, she wasn't Emma the cafe worker. She was just another guest at the party. Jack found her near the entrance. He looked handsome in his dark suit, his blue eyes bright as they found hers. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. Emma blushed. "This feels weird. Everyone will wonder who I am. No one will question why I invited a beautiful woman to the party," Jack said with a small smile. "Are you ready?" Emma nodded. According to their plan, she would keep an eye on Peter while Jack checked the security system. They needed to know exactly when Peter made his move toward the server room. The party was in full swing when Emma spotted Peter near the bar. He checked his watch, then his phone. He looked around, making sure no one was watching him, then slipped out of the main room. Emma followed at a distance, careful to stay out of sight. She watched as Peter took the elevator to the 5th floor, where the server room was located. Quickly, she texted Jack, "5th floor now." Emma took the stairs, not wanting to be seen in the elevator. By the time she reached the 5th floor, Jack was already there, waiting in the shadows. "He went that way," Emma whispered, pointing down the dimly lit hallway. Together they moved quietly, following the sound of footsteps. At the end of the hall, they saw Peter use a key card to enter the server room. "That's my old card," Jack whispered. "The one I reported missing months ago." They waited outside the door, listening. They could hear Peter inside, typing on a keyboard. "We need to catch him with the files open," Jack said quietly. "Ready?" Emma nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. Jack pushed open the door. Peter stood at a computer, a flash drive in his hand, files open on the screen. His face showed shock, then anger when he saw them. "It's over, Peter," Jack said. "Step away from the computer." Peter's shock quickly changed to a cold smile. "Jack, and the little cafe girl, how sweet, but I'm afraid you're too late." Before they could react, Peter pressed a button on his phone. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the building. "Fire alarm," Jack said, looking confused. "Not a real fire," Peter replied calmly. "Just enough confusion for me to finish here and leave. Everyone is evacuating the building. No one will notice one more person slipping away in the chaos." Peter took a step toward them, the flash drive now in his pocket. "Move aside, Jack. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "You tried to kill me," Jack said, standing his ground. "Did you really think I would just let that go?" "It was nothing personal," Peter shrugged. "Just business." Emma, who had been quiet until now, suddenly moved toward the computer. "The files are still open," she said. "He hasn't finished the transfer." Peter's cold smile disappeared. He lunged toward Emma, but Jack stepped between them. The two men struggled, crashing into a desk. Emma quickly pulled the flash drive from the computer and put it in her dress pocket. She then pressed a few keys, closing the files that Peter had opened. "No!" Peter shouted, pushing Jack away and rushing toward Emma, but it was too late. The files were closed and a security message flashed on the screen. "Unauthorized access detected. System locked." Just then, the door burst open. Security guards rushed in, followed by Linda. "Perfect timing," Jack said, straightening his jacket. "Arrest Mr. Daniels. Charges are attempted theft of company property and attempted murder." As the guards handcuffed Peter, he glared at Emma. "You," he spat. "You're nobody. You're nothing." Emma met his gaze without flinching. "I'm the nobody." "Who stopped you?" she said quietly. After Peter was taken away, Jack turned to Emma. The fire alarm had stopped, but they could still hear the sounds of the party below, now moved outside to the courtyard. "You did it," Jack said, his voice full of admiration. "You saved the company just like you saved me." Emma smiled, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "We did it together." Jack stepped closer to her. "Emma Jones," he said softly, "you are the most remarkable person I've ever met." Then, in the quiet of the server room, with the glow of computer screens lighting their faces, Jack leaned down and kissed her. Emma felt as if her whole world shifted. This was not part of the plan. This was not what she expected when she delivered food to a penthouse a month ago. But as she kissed him back, her arms sliding around his neck, Emma knew that sometimes the best things in life were the ones you never planned for. 2 weeks after Peter's arrest, the Harrison Innovations building felt different. Employees walked with lighter steps, and the tension that had filled the air was gone. Emma still worked in the cafe, but everything else in her life had changed. The morning after they caught Peter, Emma's picture was in the company email, with a message from Jack explaining how a brave cafe worker had helped uncover a plot to steal valuable company secrets. People who had never noticed her before now smiled and thanked her. Some even knew her name. Emma wiped down the counter, thinking about how strange her life had become. The kiss she had shared with Jack felt like a dream, but it had been very real. Since that night, they had seen each other every day, sometimes at work, sometimes after hours. They were careful to keep things professional in front of others, but everyone seemed to know something was happening between them. "Good morning, Emma," a familiar voice said. Emma looked up to see Linda, Jack's assistant, smiling at her. "Morning, Linda, the usual? Please." Linda watched as Emma made her latte. "Jack wants to see you in his office after your shift. He said, it's important." Emma nodded, wondering what Jack wanted to talk about. They had dinner plans that night anyway, their third official date. Maybe he wanted to change the time. At the end of her shift, Emma changed from her cafe uniform into the nice clothes she had brought, a simple blue dress and low heels. As she rode the elevator to the top floor, she felt nervous. Being with Jack still felt new and a little scary. He was the CEO, after all, and she was, well, not. Linda smiled as Emma approached her desk. "Go right in. He's waiting for you." Jack stood by the window looking out at the city. He turned when Emma entered, and his face lit up with a smile that made her heart skip. "There you are," he said, walking to her and taking her hands. "How was your day?" "Good, busy. A lot of people ordered the new caramel latte we're trying." Jack laughed. Always the observer. He led her to the couch where they had sat many times before. "I wanted to talk to you about something important." Emma sat down, suddenly nervous again. "Okay." "Your internship," Jack said. "I promised you a real business opportunity after we caught Peter, and I keep my promises." Emma had almost forgotten about that. So much had happened since then. "I've talked to our marketing department," Jack continued. "They have an opening for a junior marketing associate. It's part-time, so you can still attend your classes. The pay is better than the cafe, and you'll learn real business skills." Emma stared at him, not sure what to say. That's amazing, thank you." Jack squeezed her hand. "You earned it. Your business professors will be impressed when they hear where you're interning." "But what will people think? Won't they say I only got the job because—" Emma trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. "Because you're dating the CEO?" Jack finished for her. "Maybe some will, but anyone who knows what you did to help this company will understand you've more than earned it." Emma thought about it. She had always worked hard for everything in her life. She didn't want a handout even from Jack. "I want to earn my place," she said finally. "I want to start at the bottom and work my way up, just like I would at any company." Jack studied her face. "Are you sure? This is a good opportunity." "I'm sure. Maybe I could start as an assistant in marketing first? Prove myself before moving up?" Jack's eyes softened with admiration. "If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. You continue to surprise me, Emma Jones." Later that evening, Jack took Emma to dinner at a small, quiet restaurant where they wouldn't be recognized. Over pasta and wine, they talked about the future. "Peter's eye trial starts next month," Jack said. "The evidence against him is strong. The police found proof of the money transfers and they recovered all the stolen information." Emma twirled pasta on her fork. "Will I have to testify?" "Probably. But don't worry, I'll be right there with you." As they talked, Emma realized how different their worlds were. Jack spoke about business deals worth millions of dollars, about trips to other countries, about people whose names she had seen in news headlines. Her biggest concern had been paying her electric bill on time. "Do you ever think about how different we are?" she asked suddenly. Jack put down his wine glass. "All the time," he admitted. "But then I remember that none of those differences matter. What matters is who we are, not what we have or where we come from." "And who are we?" Emma asked softly. "You're the woman who saved my life twice, once with your warmth and once with your bravery. And I'm the man who is falling in love with you a little more each day." Emma felt her breath catch. It was the first time either of them had mentioned love. "Is that scary to hear?" Jack asked, watching her face. Emma shook her head. "No. It's scary how much I understand the feeling." The next morning, Emma started her new job as a marketing assistant. She had a small desk in the corner of the marketing department, far away from Jack's executive office. Her first task was to organize the files for an upcoming campaign. It was simple work, but Emma didn't mind. She was learning, watching, absorbing everything. At lunch, she still went to the cafe. But now, as a customer, Diane, her former manager, served her with a wink. "How's life on the other side?" Diane asked. "Different," Emma replied. "I have so much to learn. You'll do great. You were always meant for bigger things than making coffee." As the weeks passed, Emma proved herself in the marketing department. She worked harder than anyone else, arriving early and staying late. She took notes in every meeting, asked smart questions, and came up with ideas that impressed her new boss, Karen. "For someone with no formal experience, you have good instincts," Karen told her after Emma suggested a change to a social media campaign that increased engagement by 30%. Emma didn't tell Karen that she had learned about customer behavior. By watching people in the cafe, how they made decisions, what caught their attention, what made them come back for more. The hardest part was balancing her new job, her classes, and her relationship with Jack. They had to be careful at work, keeping things professional. Sometimes days would pass when they only saw each other in meetings, nodding politely across the conference table while hiding secret smiles. But in the evenings, away from the office, they were just Jack and Emma. They cooked dinner in his penthouse, the same one where she had found him that winter night, watched movies cuddled on his couch, and talked about everything and nothing. One night, as they stood on Jack's balcony looking at the city lights, Emma thought about how much her life had changed in just a few months. "Penny, for your thoughts," Jack said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I was just thinking about that night, the night I found you." Jack rested his chin on top of her head. "The night that changed everything." "Do you believe in fate?" Emma asked. "That things happen for a reason?" "I never used to," Jack admitted. "I thought life was what you made it, nothing more. But now I think maybe there are some things that are meant to be." Emma turned in his arms to face him. "Like us?" Jack smiled, his blue eyes warm in the dim light. "Especially us." He leaned down to kiss her, and Emma felt that same rush of warmth she had felt the first time. But now there was something else too, a sense of belonging, of rightness, as if all the strange twists and turns of her life had been leading her here, to this moment, to this man. As they broke apart, Jack kept his arms around her. "I have a question for you," he said, suddenly looking nervous. "It might be too soon, but I can't stop thinking about it." Emma felt her heart beat faster. "What is it?" "My penthouse feels empty when you're not here. Would you consider moving in with me?" Emma blinked in surprise. It was a big step, especially after only a few months together. And yet, something about it felt right. "You don't have to answer now," Jack added quickly. "Take some time to think about it." Emma touched his face gently. "I don't need time. Yes, I'll move in with you." Jack's face broke into a wide smile, and he lifted her off her feet in a hug that made her laugh with joy. As he set her down, Emma thought about the strange path that had led her here, from struggling student to food delivery driver to cafe, worker to marketing assistant to whatever came next, all because she had followed her instincts on a cold winter night and helped a stranger in need. "What are you smiling about?" Jack asked, just thinking that sometimes the best deliveries are the ones you never expected. 1 year had passed since that cold winter night when Emma found Jack nearly frozen in his penthouse. So much had changed in that year that sometimes Emma could hardly believe it was her life. Emma stood in front of the mirror in what was now their bedroom, adjusting the simple pearl necklace Jack had given her for her birthday. She wore a dark blue dress that matched her eyes, and her hair was styled in soft waves. Tonight was the Harrison Innovations annual charity gala, and it would be her first time attending as Jack's official partner, not just a guest or employee. "You look beautiful," Jack said, coming up behind her. He looked handsome in his black tuxedo, his blue eyes bright with admiration. "I'm nervous," Emma admitted. "Everyone will be watching us." "Let them watch," Jack said, kissing her cheek. "I'm proud to have you by my side." The past year had been full of challenges and changes. Moving in with Jack had been a big adjustment. His penthouse was bigger than any place Emma had ever lived, and at first, she felt out of place among his expensive things. But slowly, she had made it her home too, adding small touches that made the space feel warmer and more lived in. Her job in the marketing department had grown from assistant to junior manager in just 10 months. Emma had proven herself again and again, coming up with creative ideas and working harder than anyone else. Some people still whispered that she only got ahead because of Jack, but most of her colleagues respected her for her work. Jack had changed too. He smiled more, worked a little less, and had become more connected to the people in his company. He often said Emma had taught him to see things differently, to notice the small details, the human elements that he used to overlook. "Ready to go?" Jack asked, offering her his arm. Emma took a deep breath and nodded. Ready? The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the city's finest hotel. As Emma and Jack entered, many heads turned to look at them. Emma recognized the mayor, several famous athletes, and many of the city's wealthiest business people among the crowd. "Mr. Harrison, so good to see you." A woman in a sparkling dress approached them. "And this must be the famous Emma Jones we've all heard so much about." "Mrs. Blake, this is Emma." "Emma, Mrs. Blake is on our board of directors," Jack introduced. "Them?" "Lovely to meet you," Emma said, shaking the woman's hand firmly. "I've heard wonderful things about your work in marketing," Mrs. Blake said. "That campaign for the children's heart valve was quite impressive." Emma smiled, feeling a bit more confident. The children's heart valve project was special to her. It was the same technology that Peter had tried to steal, now being used to help children with heart problems. Emma had led the marketing campaign that helped raise funding for families who couldn't afford the surgery. As the evening continued, Emma was introduced to dozens of people. Some were clearly curious about the ace woman who had captured Jack Harrison's heart. Others were genuinely interested in her work. Emma answered questions politely, shared ideas when asked, and stayed close to Jack's side. During dinner, Emma was seated next to the mayor, who asked her about her journey from food delivery to marketing manager. "It's quite a story," the mayor said. "Sounds like the plot of a movie." Emma laughed. "Sometimes it feels that way to me too." "Jack is different since meeting you," the mayor observed. "Happier, more human." "We've been good for each other," Emma said simply. After dinner, Jack stood up to give a speech. The room fell silent as he talked about the charity work Harrison Innovations had done over the past year, particularly the Children's Heart Valve program. "Thanks to your generous donations tonight, we will be able to provide this life-saving technology to 50 more children this year," Jack announced, to applause from the crowd. Then his voice softened. "I want to share something personal with you all. 1 year ago, I nearly died in my own home. I would have frozen to death if not for the kindness of a stranger, a food delivery driver who found me and saved my life." Emma felt her cheeks grow warm as many eyes turned to her. "That stranger is now the woman I love," Jack continued. "Emma taught me that kindness is the most valuable quality any person can have. She inspired our company's new direction, focusing not just on making money, but on making a difference." Jack looked directly at Emma, his eyes full of emotion. "Emma, would you please join me up here?" Surprised, Emma stood and walked to the stage. Jack took her hand as she reached him. "When I met Emma, I was cold in more ways than one," Jack said, still addressing the crowd but looking at her. "I was focused only on business, on success, on winning. Emma showed me there's more to life than that." Then, to Emma's complete shock, Jack got down on one knee. A collective gasp went through the room. "Emma Jones," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "You saved my life, you changed my world, and you warmed my heart. Will you marry me?" Emma felt tears fill her eyes as Jack opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring. It wasn't flashy or overly large. It was elegant and perfect, just what she would have chosen herself. For a moment, Emma thought about how far she had come. From the girl who delivered food in the cold to make ends meet, to the woman standing, on a stage in front of the city's elite, being proposed to by the man she loved. It seemed impossible, and yet here she was. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and sure. "Yes, I will marry you." The room erupted in applause as Jack slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. Emma could hardly hear the cheers over the sound of her own heartbeat. Later that night, after they returned to the penthouse, Emma stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. The same balcony where Jack had nearly died, now a place of peace and happiness. She looked down at the ring on her finger, still getting used to the feeling of it. Jack joined her, wrapping a warm blanket around both their shoulders. "Happy?" he asked. "Very," Emma replied, leaning against him. "Though I keep thinking about how different things could have been." "What do you mean?" "If I hadn't taken that delivery, if I hadn't gone inside when you didn't answer, if I had just left the food and gone away." Jack turned her to face him. "But you didn't. That's who you are, Emma. You care. You help. That's why I fell in love with you." Emma smiled up at him. "And why I fell in love with you. Because underneath that serious CEO exterior was a man who cared just as much." "We make a good team," Jack said, kissing her forehead. "Very best," Emma agreed. 6 months later, Emma and Jack were married in a simple ceremony with close friends and family. Emma wore a classic white dress, and Jack couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle. Linda, who had become one of Emma's closest friends, was her maid of honor. Diane from the cafe sat in the front row, crying happy tears. Even Emma's old delivery manager came, amazed at how things had turned out for his former employee. After they exchanged vows and rings, Jack and Emma walked hand in hand back down the aisle, both smiling so much their faces hurt. At the reception, Emma danced with her new husband, feeling like she was floating on air. "Mrs. Harrison," Jack said softly, just for her ears. "That's going to take some getting used to," Emma replied with a smile. "We have a lifetime for that," Jack reminded her. As they danced, Emma thought about the strange path that had led her here. One small decision, to check on a customer who didn't answer his door, had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Jack asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "About warmth," Emma said. "How I tried to warm you that night with my body, not knowing that you would end up warming my whole life." Jack pulled her closer. "And you mine. I was cold in every way before I met you, Emma. You brought warmth back into my world." As they continued to dance, surrounded by people who loved and supported them, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of their story. There would be challenges ahead, new adventures, perhaps even children someday. But whatever came next, they would face it together. The delivery girl and the CEO who found love in the most unexpected way. Emma looked up at Jack, at his kind blue eyes and the smile that was now so familiar and dear to her. She had once saved him from the cold, but he had given her so much more in return. A love that would keep them both warm for the rest of their lives.